Welcome. Hello. This is Professor Gerda Pujol from the University of Central Florida, and welcome again to Legal and Ethical Environment of Business. As I mentioned in my introductory video for this unit, we'll be talking about two big models of corporate governance. One, as I have in the black whiteboard behind me, is known as the Profit Maximization Model. And it's associated with the late economist Milton Friedman, who used to teach at the University of Chicago. He passed away in 2006. Back in 1970, he wrote this very influential article in the New York Times Magazine. And the title of the article pretty much sums up his main argument. The title is, "The Ethical Responsibility of a Business is to its Shareholders." And the way I like to summarize this model is, you see I have a dollar sign sort of below, and I took out a $20 bill. The basic idea here is that the main ethical obligation of a business is to its shareholders, if it's a corporation, or if it's a different type of business entity, to the owners, to maximize the profits. Now, Milton Friedman added, of course, a very important caveat that is very important for the company to stay within the rules, to obey the law. But as long as a company, according to Milton Friedman's very influential theory, as long as a company complies with the law, its ethical obligation is met when it maximizes the profits to its owners or shareholders in the case of a corporation. Now, this seems like a very crass and simplistic theory, but in defense of the theory, I'll say this. You can trace back its origins to Adam Smith, the great Scottish Enlightenment thinker and economist, classical economist from the 18th century, from the 1700s. And of course, he's very famously known for the invisible hand theory of economics. And that theory, to sum up, is the idea that if every firm and every individual pursues his or her own self-interest, again, within the confines of the law, that is the best way of promoting the overall good of society, as opposed to attempting to impose a pattern from above or a vision of the good from above. I will say, if we look at history, there seems to be a lot to this theory, right? Societies like the former Soviet Union or the People's Republic of China under Mao Zedong. I would add closer to home, Cuba under Fidel Castro. Right? Societies that try to impose a vision of the common good through its laws and thereby restricting economic freedom, you could argue have really underperformed, right? So-called capitalist societies. Now, this is an oversimplification because, as we know, we live in a society with many laws. And, going back to the New Deal, going back to President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, we've had a very heavily regulated economy. And one could argue that laws therefore play a very important role in promoting prosperity. But the larger point here is that of the profit maximization model. I will say that the law imposes what's known as a fiduciary duty on the people who run a company. And the fiduciary duty simply means that the company, the people who run the company, its managers, its board of directors, its chief executive officer, CEO, they have to act in the best interest of the company. And that's usually interpreted to mean in the best interest of the shareholders. So you have this legal background, common law background, that people who act on behalf of a corporation have a fiduciary duty to promote the best interests of the corporation. And the idea of the profit maximization theory is simply to say, look, the law imposes this duty on a company, and you can see with its pedigree to Adam Smith's invisible hand theory, it seems to be a very simple but powerful theory. Now, in my next lecture, my next short video, we'll take a look at a major competitor to this theory, so-called corporate social responsibility. Thank you for your time and your attention. I'll see you soon.